All right. Well, let's get this started. So thank you everybody again for joining. We are really lucky today to be joined by some real experts in not only the state but in our county government. So my name is Delegate Jared Solomon, and I am really honored to represent the 18th district along with my colleagues on the phone. And before we get started, I just want to say I know we've had a lot of questions about unemployment insurance, and we know a lot of people are struggling to get by in difficult times. So our team thought it would be really important to get the experts on the phone or on the computer to help us get your questions directly answered. We have about an hour, and we know we may not be able to get to every single question, but we appreciate all of the questions that were submitted via registration, and would ask as we go through, if you have additional questions, to please just add them in the chat. And as I said, we'll try to get to as many as we can during the actual webinar. If we're not able to get to questions during the event, we will send them along to the Department of Labor afterwards and make sure that we're following up, getting information back to you. So with that, I'll turn it over to Senator Waldstreicher and my colleagues if they want to make brief introductions.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Waldstreicher. It's certainly my honor to serve as your state senator. I know I speak for everyone on our District 18 team when I say that our job is one of service, and that includes constituent service, of course, and making sure each of you is connected to the resources that you need during these challenging times. The Department of Labor is headed by a woman named Secretary Kelly Schultz, and Secretary Schultz and I served together in the Maryland House of Delegates. And I know she is incredibly competent and wants to assist everyone here on the call, and has sent two wonderful representatives from the Department of Labor who can be extremely helpful. So we are here for you each and every day, and we hope this presentation today is useful to each and every one of you.
Hey, good morning. It's Delegate Al Carr. Thanks for joining us. Along with my District 18 teammates, serve you working remotely, our staffs and us. So don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions, need assistance. One of the most popular topics we've been getting questions about is unemployment insurance. So hopefully you find this webinar informative and helpful.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Delegate Emily Shetty. Pleased to be here this morning. Thank you, Delegate Solomon, for taking the lead on organizing this helpful webinar. Like my colleagues noted, many of our offices have been inundated with constituent casework requests to help guide through the unemployment program. There have been a number of changes made and some announcements that just came out on Friday on some new changes to the program that could be helpful to many people who have joined, as well as to neighbors who may benefit from the program who were unable to join us today. So we're pleased to be able to provide this information to you as part of our constituent outreach efforts. And if you need specific assistance and are unable to get your questions answered, please don't hesitate to reach out to our offices. We are here to help you. Thank you.
Hey, Delegate Solomon.
Yeah, go ahead, Senator.
I misspoke earlier. So Secretary Schultz, former Labor Secretary, has moved over to Commerce, and I know Daniel Caroma, who's on the call, will be interacting a lot with her, helping businesses in our community. Tiffany Robinson, of course, is the Labor Secretary, and I apologize for misspeaking earlier, but she is equally thoughtful and competent and doing a good job and ready to assist.
Agreed. Well, thanks everybody again for being on the phone. So I'm just going to do a quick introduction for our speaker. So we're really lucky to have Michael Harrison joining us from the Department of Labor, where he serves as the policy director. Michael's been at the Department of Labor for a little bit more than 4 years, but has over a decade of experience in Annapolis, and is just a really great partner to work with. And he and his team have been doing yeoman work in obviously a difficult situation in getting this done. And before I turn it over actually to Michael, I did just want to recognize we're also lucky to be joined by council member, the Vice President of the County Council, Tom Hucker. So Tom, I will go in and unmute you. And if you want to join in for our section on county assistance programs and jump in on questions later on, we'd really appreciate that. Another former legislator as well in Annapolis. So Michael, with that, I will turn it over to you. And thanks again for being with us.
Well, great. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here to answer questions and talk about unemployment insurance. You've prepared some slides that I'm happy to go through. I think, are you changing those slides? Great. So I really just want to get to some of the questions, but we can quickly go through some of the unemployment insurance benefits. Congress recently passed the CARES Act, which extends unemployment benefits to the independent contractors, gig workers, sole proprietors. We are launching a new one-stop application on Friday. So all of the independent contractors will be able to apply for benefits starting this Friday. I know there's several questions in the chat box already. People have been trying since the president signed the bill. I know there's growing frustration that it wasn't available immediately, but this is a federal program that states are asked to implement, and we've worked around the clock as quickly as we can to get that up and running. It's going to be a simplified application, and so those will be able to apply starting on Friday. On our website now, if you go to mdunemployment.com, there's information on the website already. There's lots of frequently asked questions and answers. There's a email sign up for the independent contractors. You can put in your email to be notified when that application is available. You will receive a notice, and once you receive that notice, you can start applying. There's phone numbers on our website. I know the call centers are jammed and people are getting through, but 99% of the people who are calling several hundred times a day are having a hard time getting through. After Friday, we expect that call volume to significantly decline once this new application is available. Claimants who were asked to call, say you had multiple jobs in various states and you've had to call to file, you will be able to file those benefits online now. I know a lot of the calls we are getting are simple questions that are answered in the frequently asked questions. And so if you are trying to call, I would urge you to visit the website and read through all the information available before you try to call the call center. So I think we'll get into the specifics on unemployment and the CARES Act through the questions. I'm happy just to get through the questions, but some of the more benefits, if you've exhausted your benefits, the 26 weeks is the max. The CARES Act extends those benefits for an additional 13 weeks. That also includes the $600 bump up that started going out in benefits on Friday. Claimants will start seeing the $600 this week. So I think with that, we can just start getting into some of the questions.
Great. Well, Michael, why don't we do this? Why don't we have Daniel Caroma do a quick, we have a couple of slides just real quick on the county assistance programs, and then we will spend the bulk of the time on questions for the two of you. So I will just very quickly introduce Daniel Caroma, who works as a business outreach officer for Montgomery County, and many of you may know Daniel has been a real pillar in our community, doing business and community outreach across Montgomery County, and he has also been burning the midnight oil in making sure that the county assistance grants are up and running. So Daniel, if you want to just give a quick update on the county assistance grants and where things stand with that, we'd really appreciate it, and then we will move to questions.
Well, thank you so much, Delegate Solomon and all the elected officials who invited me. So since Council Vice President Hawker is on the line, because he may have actually some of additional updates from the County Council, can I just yield to him to talk about the program, and then I can go into the details when it comes to the business and nonprofit grants. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Oh, I need to unmute you. Give me just 1 second here.
There you go.
here. Tom, I unmuted you. Can you hear us? Tom, do we have you there?
Okay. All right. If we go to the slide, when it comes, if it's, oh, there you go. All right, we can go to the county slides, and then Council Vice President Harker will then give us the updates when I'm done. So if you can go back one slide. There you go. Thank you so much. So the county government has stood up several amount of programs. Just want to touch on the emergency funding that's going to Safety Net Services Organization. That's $5 million. And as I say, Council Vice President Hawker will talk about that when he's unmuted and join us. But the program I've been working on for a couple of weeks now is the $20 million, which is funding for our nonprofits and for-profit businesses in the county, including sole proprietors and independent contractors. So just an overview of the program itself. The legislation was passed by the county council, signed by the county executive, and in the legislation, there was a provision placed in by Council Vice President Hawker to set aside 25% of the $20 million for restaurant and retail storefront. And so basically, the eligibility that was established in the legislation and also in the executive regs, where that your principal place of business has to be in Montgomery County, or 50% of your employees working in the county, or 50% or more than 50% of your gross sales taxes have to be in the county in order for you to be eligible. And the program was set up for nonprofit and for-profit businesses that have 100 or fewer employees. So once that eligibility is established, you have to also prove significant loss in revenues. And the way we can demonstrate that to us is by providing 2 years of financials. So if you haven't filed your 2019 taxes yet, we're looking for 2018 and 2017 taxes. And in addition to those 2 years of financials, we're also looking for either a P&L statement or a bank statement if you have 5 employees or fewer for the month of March. Why we need that information is because the 2 years financial will help us establish, again, a historic financial data, and we can look at the monthly averages for the past 2 years, that you've been in business or that you've ran your nonprofit. And then in the month of March, we will be able to see the significant loss in revenues. And the executive reg established significant loss in revenue to be 50% or greater of your revenues in the month of March. And why the month of March is because that's when the governor issued the order, the executive order. And so we're only looking at the month of March. Right now, we're not looking at future losses, which will be in April and further down. We're only looking at March as it is. In the legislation, if you are deemed eligible based on the criteria I just discussed, you can get up to $75,000. And then in addition to that, there's an additional $2,500, up to $2,500 that for-profit and non-profit businesses can also get for telework. So you can either buy a telework hardware or software. And if you've done that already, you just need to send us the invoice. And if not, just send us a quote from one of the stores that you're going to be buying either the hardware or the software to telework. Once we get the applications, you can go to montgomerycountymd.gov /bees-resources/PHEG. I see it's listed already. If you go there, all the information I just talked about is there. And once, what we are recommending, and these are some of the input I've received from the reviewers. So far, we have slightly over 5,000 applications that have come in, and of the 5,000, about 80% of them have already been reviewed. So, as Delegate Solomon said earlier, we're working throughout the weekends to make sure we can get to these decisions. Because of that, folks who have actually submitted a complete application, which means you've provided all the documentations for us to determine the loss in revenues and you meet all the other eligibility criteria. Some of you have actually received emails from us already. There's a granting letter that you receive. We're asking that you review that granting letter because the granting letter basically is stating that you're giving the county permission to audit your financials, again, based on the application you submitted. And that's something we do for all entities that are receiving grants from the county. Additionally, we also are disclosing that because these are public funds, any funds that you receive from the county government is public information. Again, not your financial information, but the funds that you receive. So the name of your entity will be disclosed and the amount that you receive from the county would also be disclosed as well to the public. And then finally, on that letter, it's stating that all the information you provided on your application is accurate and is also under the penalty of perjury. That's all the information you've provided is accurate and correct. Once you sign that grant letter, send it back to us. For those of you who have not done any business with the county, in terms of you're not a contractor with the county, you have never contracted with the county, we will guide you through our central vendor registration system. And in that system, basically what we do is that you provide the general business information, and then in addition, you also provide the ACH information for your business account or for your nonprofit account. For those of you who are already vendors with the county, again, it actually makes it faster. So some vendors who have already done business with the county, we're looking at maybe towards the middle or end of this week, they will start to see funds being deposited into their account. We've set up a business, we've set up an email address for businesses that have questions. I know when we started earlier that we had a minor glitch where the application numbers were not being displayed on the screen after someone submit the application. If your application number was not displayed and you did not also get an email with your application number, please email us, and the email address is info COVID-19 at montgomerycountymd.gov. Again, that's all one word, info COVID-19 at montgomerycountymd.gov. And with that, I will stop there and see if there are any questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Daniel. Appreciate you being here. Thanks for the information and for all the work that the county is doing. It's really been a great partnership. So with that, I think we will move to questions and appreciate there were a lot of questions that were submitted via registration with folks on the call. And then we have folks who have been typing in on the chat box as well. As I said before, we will do our best to try to get to answer as many of the questions that we have here. If not, obviously we've got them all captured and we'll make sure that we follow up individually. So thank you again to all of our participants. So I'm gonna go in and make sure that everybody is unmuted for our for the question and answer portion. And all right, the first question was from somebody who wrote in about adjunct faculty. There's a question here about reasonable assurance of reemployment from one semester to the next, and they're asking whether they would be eligible for unemployment benefits more easily this summer. Michael, I don't know if you know the answer to that question.
No, anybody who has lost their job or had hours or pay reduced because of the virus is encouraged to apply for unemployment insurance benefits. The CARES Act passed by Congress extends unemployment to a greater pool of eligible people than would normally be eligible. So I don't know about specific adjunct faculty summer hours, but I would encourage you to apply, and a determination would be made in that specific case.
Great, and so I guess that actually kind of dovetails with some of the other questions we've been getting. So if people are denied or if they're not getting responses on anything, what is the best suggestion from folks at the department for next steps? Is there a specific email address you would want people to follow up to? They call.
There is. If you've received a notice of denial or disqualification, there is a email address on our website dedicated to denials. I'd encourage you to go to mdunemployment.com. On there is information if you were denied benefits for whatever reason. There's several outstanding reasons to someone would be denied. We have people that can look into that. If you would send an email to that dedicated email address, somebody will look into it and be in touch with the constituents. And I noticed there was also some questions on when will I receive my benefits. I haven't received any benefits yet. Under normal circumstances, it takes, there's roughly a 21-day turnaround between the time somebody applies to when they would receive benefits. There's several things that has to happen in between. We mail out packets to the people, we contact the employers and verify wages. We are sticking to the 21 days. In most cases, people are still receiving benefits in 21 days, but it's, if you've applied, say on April 5th, I think I saw one date, that's 15 days. So please allow at least 21 days to receive a benefit, the debit card and any information. I know we are, with the phone lines, we're also backed up in our mail room. And so there's lots of mail that's going out. I think they were trying to clear it out this weekend. So everybody who is supposed to get mail should be receiving mail soon. That could be some of the information that you're waiting for.
Great, thank you. I was going to say there's a number of there were a number of questions in about that. One of the other common questions that we're getting both on the chat and in the registration, there are a couple of people who were part of that long-term unemployed bucket. There's somebody in particular who says their unemployment insurance ran out back in March, and I'm sorry, in November, and then they were let go again in March because of the COVID-19 crisis. Do they qualify for unemployment? And then what's the process for those folks who were close to exhausting or have exhausted the 26 weeks? And I know the CARES Act was able to extend it another 13, but when would that go into effect?
Right. So this Friday, with the new one-stop application, people whose benefits have exhausted, who are due the additional 13 weeks, will be able to reapply starting on Friday. You just go to our website to access the new application, and if you're eligible for the additional 13 weeks, you would receive it after applying starting on Friday.
Great. There's another common question in here is about folks who have had their pay cut or reduced in a furlough, but their hours necessarily haven't been cut. I don't know if or maybe just where both have been put on. How would folks apply if their hours, or are folks eligible if their hours and pay have been reduced but they haven't been actually laid off? And what's the process for that?
Yeah, so people are eligible for partial unemployment benefits. They would apply for benefits and note the reduction in pay, and you would receive corresponding equivalent unemployment benefits based on your partial wages and the lost income. If it's due to the virus, I mean, it's
great, and that application will be part of the one stop that's coming up on Friday.
Yes.
Great.
Yes. And I for the employers out there, I would also encourage employers to look up the WorkShare program on our website. It's a WorkShare program. It's a program, the layoff aversion program. So employers sign up if they have employees on payroll. The employer can reduce wages and anywhere from a minimum of 20% up to a maximum of 50%. And that would be offset by partial unemployment benefits, plus the additional 600 plus up until the end of July. It's a WorkShare, it's called the WorkShare program. There's information on our website. It's going to be more popular, I think, as businesses start opening back up and bringing back the employees. If you want to bring back employees on a reduced schedule, sign up for the work share program. Employees would receive partial benefits and they can go back to work. There's, again, visit mdunemployment.com. There's information on the work share program.
Great. And Delegate Shetty, I think it looked like you had a question if you want to jump in.
Oh, sure. Thanks, Delegate Solomon. Michael, there has been a question that has come up both in our office as well as here in the chat a couple of times. The question is what jurisdiction someone should apply to if they live in Maryland, but they worked in other jurisdictions. So scenario one that comes up often is they worked entirely in DC or Virginia, but live in Maryland. And scenario two is if they're an independent contractor or sole proprietor, but they've done work in maybe DC, Maryland, and Virginia. What jurisdiction or jurisdictions should they apply to?
But the independent contractors, regardless of where you work, would be able to apply starting on Friday. It's going to be a simplified application. We are working in partnership with surrounding states and the United States Department of Labor to kind of vet and process all those applications to verify wages, regardless of where you worked. Normally employees file in the state where they work, not where they live. So if a majority of your wages are in DC or Virginia, you would file there. Starting on Friday, you can apply with this new application if you've earned wages in multiple states and had multiple jobs. That's one of the questions that we do get a lot. Those people have been told to call that they can't apply online, but starting on Friday, you will be able to apply online if you've had jobs in multiple states.
Great, thank you. And Michael, just to clarify, so if you are, obviously if you're full-time employed, let's say in DC, I know this has come up a lot, obviously, given the proximity of our community to both Virginia and DC. If you're a full-time employee in DC, you would apply through the DC unemployment. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Full-time at DC would go to DC.
Great, great. So one of the other common questions, I know this has come up a little bit, and I know I think you all are fixing the glitch, but I know a couple of folks have mentioned that they've gotten a letter regarding having to have the job contacts and the employment search.
All right.
Those requirements have been waived, but could you just quickly talk about that?
Yeah, so part of the pandemic, the work search requirement has been waived. It was originally 13 weeks just because the U.S. Department of Labor required an end date. That will probably be extended. So if you are receiving benefits, I know there's been some mail that was sent in error, and because our mailroom was backed up, we haven't been able to fix that quickly. But the work search has been waived. So you do have to file your web certifications weekly. And on that, you just check no, that you have not been searching for work. And it will not void your claim. That is correct.
Great. So Michael, I know obviously one of the big changes with the CARES Act was around opening it up to self-employed and gig workers. Could you just talk real quickly about that?
Sure, thank you. So typically, gig workers, self-employed, sole proprietors are not eligible for unemployment benefits, but because of the CARES Act and Congress extended benefits, starting on Friday, you will be eligible to apply and you will receive benefits. The application will launch on Friday. And so the benefits are retroactive from the date of separation, not the date that you apply. So once you apply, your first benefit check will contain several weeks worth of payments, 2, maybe 3 weeks worth of payments. That does include the $600 weekly benefit plus the $430 max state benefit. So the first check could be several $1,000s if it's retroactive going back several weeks.
Great, thank you, Michael. And actually, just changing gears real quick, Daniel, we have a question about the emergency grant program. So it's a question here about being a sole proprietor, a massage therapist, saying the PHEG application asks for 2 of several items. 2 items are all items in 2 categories, 1 tax return and 1 schedule, for example, C, or all 3 tax returns and all 3 schedule Cs. And she wants to know exactly what she can use the PHEG funds for.
So on the application, the use of funds, let's say generally will be towards operating expenses. So it could be for if you have utility payments, I mean, just your usual operating expenses for your business. In terms of the first question was around what was the first question, Delegate Solomon?
It says the application asks for 2 of several items.
Yeah.
Items are all items in 2 categories.
Yeah, so basically we're looking for, again, a historic, we have to establish a historic financial history of the business. So in this case, 2 years of tax returns. Then we are looking for your March bank statement. If you're a sole proprietor, just a bank statement will show us the revenues that came in March. And once we have established the historic financial statement for your in terms of your business, we do we look at the monthly averages, and then in the month of March we'll see the decline in revenues. And if that decline is 50% or greater, and obviously that will put you in the eligible category.
Great, thank you. And Michael, switching gears back to you. There's a lot of questions in here from sole proprietors and individuals who are going to be filing on that new application on Friday. Can you talk a little bit about what the sort of newly eligible folks will need in order to qualify or to complete their application, so folks can be ready?
Yeah, so at some point this week, I'm not exactly sure when, our website will be updated with this information. We know we announced the application going live a week early in order to give those independent contractors time to gather all the documents that they're going to need. We are going to be posting all of that on our website shortly if it's not there already. So I would encourage all those independent contractors and sole proprietors to go to mdunemployment.com, look for the information. It should be near the top. We are going to be listing all that information on our website to give people enough time to start collecting those documents ahead of time. Off the top of my head, I don't want to misspeak or miss documents, so I would just refer people to the website for the most accurate and up-to-date information.
Great, and we'll do our best to everybody who's on the call, the 4 of us and our staff, to get that information out. So keep an eye out for. We'll blast out that information. We'll also pending technology here. We will do our best to make a recording of this available, and we'll also share the slides. I know a couple of folks have been asking that question as well. Michael, we have another question in here for somebody who says, I'm a green card holder, and they weren't sure whether they would be eligible for unemployment. Could you talk a little bit about sort of what immigration status or what types of folks who may not necessarily be citizens would qualify for unemployment?
So there is, I refer you to our website to frequently asked questions. I think there's information that I believe one of the requirements is you have to have a social security number. I think that limits some undocumented workers, but there's information on our website about the qualifications and minimum requirements to receive benefits.
Great. And then Daniel, we'll switch back to you for a second here. So we have a question from somebody who wants to know what the timeline for the emergency grant response is for the application. I know you're all working around the clock, but the person says they applied the day that the application opened and they haven't gotten any response yet. Any sense of what the timing on the application will be?
Yeah, sure. So I'll say the timing to submit an application right now, it's average of 15 minutes. And once we receive the application, It takes about another 15 to 20 minutes to review, especially if the application, if all the financials we're asking for are available. So the turnaround time right now, I would say from application to review, it's about 30 minutes. And that's why we're really asking folks to go to the website and then gather all the documentation and submit it, because a complete application makes it faster in the back end. And as I said, this week we will start sending emails out for folks who have been, who we deem to be approved based on the eligibility. And once they get us back the granting letters signed, then by the end of this, by midweek or by end of this week, we'll start making deposit into their business or nonprofit accounts.
Great, thank you. And Daniel, actually, we've got another question for you. Somebody was asking that they're a self-employed graphic designer, and their income for March is from invoicing in January and February, which obviously reflects a very different time in our community than March and April. And so they want to know, are the reviewers looking at reduced income, obviously for the past recent months, or are they only looking really, are they taking that into consideration? Or are they only really looking at past invoices when they're making their determinations on the amount of grant funding?
So what the reviewers are looking for is a 50% or more decline in revenues. So the 2 years taxes give us, again, it sets a baseline, and also we're able to look at the monthly revenues, the top line revenues monthly. And then the month of March, we are able to see the dip in terms of the decline in revenues because of the COVID. And right now, as I say, the only period they're looking at is the month of March. So future losses are not being considered right now.
Great, thank you. And I think that was, we can have folks obviously follow up. We have contact information posted if folks feel like they still have follow-up questions or weren't 100% sure what to do next. Michael, switching back to you. This is another question around self-employed. So somebody asks, I'm a realtor and I received a 1099. If I get unemployment and then get a commission, how does that work?
I don't know. I would just encourage people to apply and work with the claims taker on bonus payments such as that. There's several companies are also receiving kind of furlough pay benefits. And so all of that supplemental income is addressed in the filing process.
That was actually going to be a follow-up question. I know we've gotten a couple of questions about that. Does anybody getting, if their company has gotten the Paycheck Protection Program funding in both obviously either unemployment or in the county grant piece, does that come into play at all in either unemployment or eligibility for other county grants? Yes, that's to both Michael and Daniel.
Yeah, I don't know about county grants. For the Payroll Protection Program, the PPP is designed to pay employees who are still on staff and on salary, but are not working. It's not an unemployment program. So if you're receiving PPP, that money goes towards the salary of workers. They would not be eligible. They'd still be working essentially, so they are not eligible for unemployment benefits.
And on the county side, we are actually encouraging all our businesses to apply for state and federal programs. And by you applying for those programs does not exclude you from applying for the county program. The only thing is that the use of those funds. So for example, if you get the PPP, which is, as Michael said, to pay your employees, then the county funds can be used for, in terms of pay rent or pay utilities. And so as a result of that, again, we're encouraging businesses to apply for both state and federal programs that are currently open.
Great, thank you. I know we have another question here specifically about, says, my daughter provided daycare at a local church and they cut back on events after the first of the year. Will her bank statements from December and November be sufficient to apply?
Again, I would refer you to our website for up-to-date information. That person will be eligible to apply starting Friday with the new application. And so this week we'll be updating our website with all the information that you would need to verify wages. So I imagine it's going to be a 1099 or some federal form, but we will be updating the website with information. So I would just check the website to see if bank statements would be allowed or not.
Yeah, I was going to say, I see a follow-up. She never got a 1099, so maybe we can follow up individually on that one. Another question, and actually just sort of generally, Michael, maybe you could talk about the process if folks, if English is not their first language, what's the process? Is there a Spanish website or a line to call in where they may be able to get assistance in Spanish or another language?
Our website is available in Spanish, I believe. I think all state websites have the Google Translate feature. There's also information for Spanish speakers to call in. I believe if they call, they can be transferred to somebody else at the call centers for assistance. I think all state websites, and especially ours, unemployment, are readable in other languages.
Great. So there's just a follow-up question to just confirm. So if the employer received, somebody's saying if their employer received the PPP loan or the PPP grant and then reduced wages, folks can still apply for that partial unemployment, correct?
I believe so, yes. They'd be encouraged to apply, and a determination would be made during the process. I can't verify yes or no based on that information. The people would have to apply, and a determination would be made.
And then another question that's come in here. Sorry, it just screen just went away here. Just get my place one more time. Sorry about that, folks. So a couple of questions about folks who have sort of multiple jobs as if they're self-employed. Could you talk a little bit about what that process would look like? Would they have to prove loss of income for each specific job, or is there one that they should be applying for versus another? If they have something that may only be a few hours, let's say 4 or 5 a week, versus another job that may be 20 to 25, or would they just have to submit all the paperwork to sort of show the loss of income in order to figure out what they're eligible for?
That will be addressed starting on Friday with the new online application. I think for people who have had multiple jobs, who have had to call in historically, you'll be able to apply online. Again, I would refer you to the website. I sound like a broken record, but later this week, we will update the website with all the information you're going to need. For accuracy, I would just, rather than trying to answer that directly, I would refer people to our website later this week to check on what information you would need and how to apply. We're going to do it to give everyone enough time to start collecting all the documents. But for people with multiple jobs, you're going to need proof of income for all those multiple jobs. And then, of course, the state maximum is $430 a week, and the $600 is flat. So depending on what jobs you have, the maximum you'll get is $430. So if you've got 1 or 2 jobs that gets you to that maximum, that's all you would need to use to apply.
And we know that things are changing on the fly. So once again, we'll do our best to make sure that we get information out to folks as it becomes available, and we encourage people to continue to check the mdemployment.com website. And again, we have to a lot of these pages on the slides that we'll share, as well as a lot of the email addresses that have been mentioned. Michael, another question that's come up just a couple of times, I think just sort of generally. So I know obviously your call centers have been just slammed, and I know the secretary and your team have done a phenomenal job of trying to hire new people. I think there were another 200 people brought on, and every time I hear Secretary Robinson talk, it sounds like you're trying to hire more people, which I know is tough to do given the limitation of training folks in a quick manner. But
right.
Maybe you could just talk about what do folks do if they're trying to get through and they haven't been able to, or they haven't gotten a response to any of their emails? Is there a suggestion, like another phone number maybe they can call, or is it just really exercising patience and documenting what's going on?
Yeah, at this point, we are training these employees as quickly as we can. We expect with this new application launched later this week, this will address vast majority of people's questions and reasons to call. So we expect the call volume to significantly decrease. We've extended call center hours. We've opened the call centers on Saturdays. I'd encourage people to call it off hours. I know the middle of the day is busy. I know people are calling 300 to 500 times a day. They trying to get through. At the same time, that's clogging up the phone lines. We are launching a new call center kind of virtual assistant that's going to be able to address questions. It's going to upgrade the call-in process for a lot of people. So I would just ask for patience, and I think starting soon, I think people will start seeing progress on being able to get through to the call centers.
Great, thank you. And again, we know folks are working around the clock, so appreciate that. There's another question, and I think I know the answer to this one. Just to confirm, obviously for folks who've had trouble getting their applications in, you can't. The benefits will be retroactive, correct, to when obviously their employment was ended.
That is correct. Benefits will be retroactive to the date of separation, not the date of filing. And so your first benefit payment will include several weeks if it goes back, depending on how far it goes back. I know several people have also received mail about deadlines. So if you applied and you were told you had to respond by a certain date in order to receive benefits, all these deadlines have been waived. So that's another thing. The information is on our website about deadlines. I know we're getting a lot of emails and calls, people concerned about an upcoming deadline. Those deadlines have been passed, waived. So keep filing. You will get all the benefits you are owed as quickly as possible.
Great. Well, I think I have exhausted just about all the questions that we received prior, and as things have popped up, I will quickly turn over to my colleagues if there are any additional questions. Senator Waldstreicher, Delegate Carr, Delegate Shetty, if there's anything else that we missed or any other questions that were outstanding.
I have nothing additionally, just to say thank you to all our participants. We had upwards of 70, 75 people on this call, all of whom are hurting in various different ways. And I want to thank you, Delegate Solomon, and my colleagues, Delegate Shetty and Delegate Carr, for organizing this call. I know your Chief of Staff, Eden Durbin, was instrumental in putting this together. So I really appreciate it. And thank you to those from our state agency and our local agency for supporting our constituents. I know how hard you're working under very difficult circumstances. I think I speak for everyone when I say thank you.
I just want to chime in really quick and echo the thanks. I did have one question. I apologize. I hope I had to step away for 10 seconds. I hope it wasn't answered. Did you get to the question about nonprofits and religious institution employees, Jared?
You know what? We may not have.
If I could just quickly, so one of
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
questions, yeah, thank you. One of the questions that I receive to my office is whether employees who have been furloughed or let go from nonprofits or religious institutions, if they're otherwise eligible, are they eligible to apply for unemployment benefits, Michael?
They will be eligible with the new CARES Act
Okay,
starting on Friday.
okay, that's
And I'd
helpful.
also encourage nonprofits to look at the WorkShare program and apply for WorkShare if they have employees that are cut back wages. The WorkShare would allow them to receive partial payment salary and then also supplemented with partial unemployment benefits.
And that would be, the application for that program is on the employer or the employee?
Employers sign up on behalf of the employees.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. That was my last question, and this has been incredibly helpful. So I thank both Daniel and Michael for your participation, and Delegate Solomon again for organizing this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, this is Delegate Carr. I just wanted to echo my colleagues' comments of thanks. One question that I did still have is, suppose a person has two jobs, job A and job B. They get laid off from job A, but they still have job B, so they have a reduction in income, but they're less employed, but they're not unemployed. So is a person like that eligible to apply for assistance?
Well, it depends on what the wages are for the jobs that they still have. If wages are higher than the weekly maximum of $430, they would not be eligible for benefits. I've heard that there's some employees that are either getting furlough benefits or partial pay. If that partial pay is for $1 over the weekly maximum, they are not eligible for state benefits or the $600 bump up. You have to be eligible and receive state benefits.
Thank you.
Great. Well, and just to piggyback off of Delegate Shetty's questions, also I know a lot of us have gotten questions about eligibility for some of the federal and other assistant grant programs. We know the nonprofits are eligible for the county program, and we know also nonprofits are eligible for the Paycheck Protection Program, which even though it looks like the fund has run out, all the news seems to say that the federal government will be putting a substantial amount of money back into that program. So make sure that if you work for a nonprofit, that you are eligible for that, and that your employers are looking into filing for that. So with that, we're at just about noon. I really want to thank Michael and Daniel again. I know you and your teams have been working literally around the clock, to try to set everything up and build the car as it's driven the road, but really answering our questions. And I just want to thank everybody who's on the call and joined the webinar. I know sometimes this is not easy, and I know everybody is struggling in one form or another. So again, if your questions weren't answered or you still have questions based on this conversation, please reach out to any of our offices individually. All of our phone number and emails are on that last slide there. And if you do have a really unique case, we're more than happy to help. I know Michael and his team have been have again just been absolutely great in addressing individual concerns and things that have come up. So thank you to everybody who's sticking with us. We'll get through this, and we will do our best to address all the issues that come up. But thank you again, Michael. Thank you again, Daniel, for giving us your time. Councilmember Hucker, if you're still with us, thanks for everything the council has been doing. It truly is a partnership to try to support our community here. So with that, we're going to sign off and keep an eye on your inbox for the slides and more information going forward, and future webinars we'll be doing as well.
Thank you all.
Thank you.